Hey everyone, I welcome you all to the Baseline Show. We do this every Wednesday at noontime EST and 6 p.m. CET and 10:30 p.m. India time. So, Baseline Show is a community effort. It is for the outreach and informing people more about Baseline protocol and what all is being built within the Baseline community. Today is a very special episode, as I also posted on social media handles. We are co-streaming with folks from C4 Cryptocurrency Consortium, Cryptocurrency Certification Consortium, right? So I'm going to invite Jessica from there and Joshua from C4 to tell us a little more about C4. But first of all, say hi to all the OGs of Baseline who are on the show today. So Andreas is here. We have Yoav, we have Sonal, we have Mark Haddle, we have Jack. So everybody is going to talk about ZK proofs today. We are going to be doing a refresher for people who are for people who just want to brush up core concepts, and for starters, it's going to be a good starting point to gain some key concepts, core concept, and build upon that. So yeah, Jessica, why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, tell us a little more about C4, and take it from there.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So this is super cool for us to be joining today. So I'm Jessica. I am from C4. I'm the executive director, and we have a scheduled live stream as well at this time with our CEP committee. So we've got two of our CEP committee members here today, Josh and Sonal. Sonal is both part of Baseline and part of C4's CEP committee. And if you have not heard of C4, first of all, why not? Second of all, we are a nonprofit organization based out of Canada, and we do education and certification for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and we've got the cryptocurrency security standard. But today we're here to talk about zero knowledge. So anybody from C4 want to say anything else about what we do that I haven't added yet? Josh, Sonal? Just how much
How
you
could I
love
possibly
it?
follow that up with any additional information? C4 has been around the space since 2014. We just love producing good content. Our focus is on educating people and making sure that we're working with fellow good people in the space.
Awesome. So one of the cool things about us all doing this together is that we're going to get kind of a wide variety of perspectives and information about zero knowledge. And actually, zero knowledge is one of those things that's been around for a little bit, but it's just starting now, at least from my perspective, to be something that, like, if you're in this space, it's really important to know about, understand, and that's what we're doing today. So with that being said, why don't we start jumping right into the content so we can really explain what zero knowledge is. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up, Samrat, before we get into the nuts and bolts? No? I'll take that as we're ready to go. All right.
No.
Let's start with what the heck we're talking about. I feel like that's always a good thing. So if you just joined and you're like, you keep saying these words, what is zero knowledge? Let's start by just explaining what that means. So Andreas, do you want to get us started with just the basics of what it is that zero knowledge is?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Samrat. Wonderful to be here. Hello to everyone out there in the crypto meta universe. So zero knowledge is actually a core component of the Baseline protocol, the Baseline protocol standard. So let's dive in and give a very non-technical introduction to zero knowledge, and why really do we need it, right? So the physical worlds and the digital worlds are merging, right? So we're creating, it's like everybody calls it the metaverse. Well, that's really what it is. You have physical things are becoming digitized, and digital things suddenly become real, or they just live in that space in between. What has this led to? It's what I call a Cambrian explosion of new digital assets, right? So what are these type of digital assets? We have non-fungible digital assets. So we have houses that are suddenly popping up.
Uh-oh.
Well, of all the people, we lost our speaker. Oh no.
Well, why don't we jump in while we wait? Hopefully he'll be coming back shortly. I don't know. Can you see, is he still on the stream, or is he booted himself out for the time being?
I think he's gone.
Okay, well, I'm sure he'll be back, but who wants to pick up where he left off? Someone from Baseline? If you guys want me to ramble nonsensically, I'd be happy to.
No, I think basically he was starting off as far as zero knowledge computing, which is getting a lot of attention right now, really emerging out of, kind of a clustering of a lot of these emerging technologies. We're really starting to figure out, how can we actually sit there and do things that we're not allowed to do right now, either because of data privacy or just corporate policy, competitive concerns. I need to collaborate with someone that is beyond my corporate border, and they need to collaborate with me. And we're very limited as far as the data that we can actually share. So how can I sit there and prove consistency to know that, what I'm looking at is the same thing you're looking at? Even in the environment to where there's rapid updating and there's version control going on, even when you have counterparties that have varying levels of technical sophistication, how can they share data, but still maintain their security profile, their data privacy compliance, and or even in a multi-party environment that operates very rapidly. How can we make sure everybody is at least updated? And a lot of the collaboration platforms that are out there right now, like Slack and Teams, Salesforce, a lot of them have kind of done a lot as far as within a single organization or within a single work group. They've been able to go around and really either through different sharing mechanisms within a particular application, most commonly Excel. But in order to really collaborate, we need to set up those secure and maintain those secure, work groups. And that can be a really tall order. And what happens when you have an environment to where you're going to have some people that, are really arm's length, that aren't operating in the regular cadence. Like, we only hear from this person once every 30 days, but we really rely on their the data that they're putting in there. And how do we sit there and prove consistency? So zero knowledge proof is a major component of that, is to where you're not sharing the data itself because you can't, but you're sharing a proof of the data. And within the business environment, I commonly tell them to where I can't share with you the real thing, but I can show you a mathematical proof that we are aligned. Does that cross your threshold? And that's enough, to cross it, because I can't have the data, but I have a proof that my data set matches those of my counterparties in any given point in time. And even you can start to get, more granular about it to where, if you look at it from kind of the macro aspect to where, yes, this spreadsheet matches your spreadsheet. Well, what happens when it doesn't? And, through zero knowledge proof and with baseline protocol, we can pinpoint, well, this is where the misalignment is. There was something that was changed at the last minute. You don't have to go back, open up the spreadsheet and start, combing through it to find out, okay, what's different. We can basically give you, boom, this is where it's different. So, whatever it needs to be updated and everybody can get resynchronized, that's really what a lot of people are paying attention to. And zero knowledge computing is, a key component of that. So, but Andreas is back. He was.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I guess something the application crashed in my.
Yeah,
Can you
I
guys
also
see
got kicked
my?
out and then I came back again.
Can you see my screen? Or what was the last thing you heard before it disappeared?
The houses are popping up.
The houses. All right. Okay.
Yes,
So
houses are
we have I was saying, you have houses, real or imagined. People are paying money for it. Cars, commercial documents. That's what about is doing business transactions based on commercial documents, and you have fungible digital assets, liquidity rewards if you're into DeFi, utility tokens such as for storage if you like Filecoin or Storage, or tokens with programmatic value, for example.
We lost him again.
Yeah, okay.
Something
All
is
right, well,
going
maybe
on.
he'll
Murphy's
just-
in the room.
He'll just pop
One,
in and out, I guess, as needed. Who can keep taking it from where he jumped off? Mark, did you want to?
I'll jump into
yeah,
Who wants to?
jump
Cool,
into
thanks,
another kind of interesting element is that, zero knowledge proofs, I feel like that main focus was privacy. We needed it to be able to, either share information without sharing information, but mostly, share truth without sharing information. So privacy has always been the focus of zero knowledge proof. It's basically in the name, which is wonderful. But more recently, we're now realizing that same kind of attribute, that same helpful element of this technology, also ability to use it in efficiencies and optimizing these networks as well, and helping to decentralize these networks. So it's usually security generally means inefficient and frustrating. So it's nice that we're suddenly finding a technology that'll actually help us kind of meet those goals as well. Andreas is back, so we're gonna. Oh, and we got to share screen. Perfect.
Lovely.
Okay, I don't understand what the WTF is happening, but I don't know. Anyway, so and with these, sorry, we have these different worldviews, right? On the one end, we have opaque centralized world, which we know, traditional finance companies, and then we have the cypherpunks point of view, which is transparent and decentralized, and they collide, right? These worldviews collide, and they lead to conflict, which is playing out and has been playing out for the last 10 years. But we are, or more than that. But there's a what I call a Chimerian area between these two, where we have a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. Why? Because we can be privacy preserving, so fulfilling the needs of the left-hand side, but verifiable, which means, okay, I might not be able to see everything, but I can verify everything. It's decentralized. We can decentralize it, but it can be controlled at the same time, which is pretty amazing. And it can be really fast, which blockchains are not. If you claim yours is, there's a trade-off that you're not talking about. Welcome to Solana. You're crashing all the time. Dissing on Solana.
Is that even a blockchain? I don't categorize that as blockchain.
Anyway,
And we lost him again.
I kind of love this because I feel like this is our opportunity to go into the where's Waldo, where's Wally example, except it's
Perfect.
like where's Andreas. But maybe we should, since he keeps disappearing and where in the world is, that's Carmen Sandiego, not where's Waldo. Anyways, I'm mixing my stories together and singing in my head. I won't continue. Yeah.
Exactly.
So does someone want to explain what I'm talking about? Why am I talking about Waldo? Does anyone want to go into that? Waldo's back.
Waldo's back. Yeah. So it's like, let's forget about the screen sharing. Let me just talk about really. So if you're using zero knowledge proofs, you can do amazing things, right? So for example, you can have fully verifiable and auditable by anyone, anytime. Traditional investment funds. Welcome to FTX world, right? That would have been great to have had it, but you don't have it. So that's key. While everything is still fully opaque, right? You can have digital asset exchanges with high frequency trading, right? That are again verifiable by anyone, anytime, or secure. You can't cheat, right? Same thing for supply chains. Gaming, it's like everybody, it's like everybody knows what the latest cheat is. That actually is not operating at the OS level, but actually at the firmware level. Okay, so it's like the only way around that is using zero knowledge proofs that present what the state of hardware and software is at any point in time. So, but again, you can combine those and using. So the key thing is, where does the decentralization aspect comes into the zero knowledge that we'll talk about in a second what that actually is. You can use blockchains at the same time. Why do you do that? Because you're building a stack, which I would love to show, but I can't because the effing stream crashes all the time.
We can add it in later. Andreas,
Yeah,
our video editor can add it in later, and we can do like a little clip for it that we can release to people in addition, so they can see that part.
That's fine. So basically, you can build a stack, a 5-layer stack, where the top 3 layers of application, middleware, and the functional aspect is your typical enterprise stack, and then you have your layer, what I call the magic layer of privacy and speed. In the parlance of Web3, it's called a layer 2, and what above it is a layer 3. And underneath it, and that's why it's really important to use public blockchains, because this magic layer of processing in speed, where all the zero knowledge magic happens, is actually inheriting the security properties of the public blockchain, if you're doing it right. If you don't, then that's really bad. So, but I can do all the wonderful things of cryptography, and I don't have to do everything on a blockchain, because that's not what a blockchain is for, right? It's like it's like, if everybody's actually wants to be interested in how why we can actually verify zero knowledge proofs on Ethereum, it's a very fascinating story about Zcash and Christian Riedwiese and Vitalik and so forth. I can tell that at one point in time. But really important, what is zero knowledge, right? And the easiest example is what's called Alibaba's cave. Right? Alibaba's cave just says it's like I tell Samrat, hey, I know the password to Alibaba's cave, and Samrat goes, well, prove it. I'm like, okay. So and Alibaba's cave has an entrance and an exit, right? So you can only come out the exit, right? If you know the password to get in the entrance. So what do? I walk into the cave, use my secret password without sharing it to Samrat, and then walking out the exit, and then popping out on the other side, waving to Samrat and say, see, I know the password. So Samrat now knows that I know the password. I really know the password, provably so. Why? Is because I walked out the exit that you can only walk out if you went into the entrance. And that's the simplest example of a zero knowledge proof. It's like, I can prove to Samrat that I know something that I don't reveal, right? But Samrat knows that I actually know that secret. And obviously you can take that to, which is kind of like a fun thing, right? But you can take that to the real world and say, when you're buying a house, right, and you want a loan, right, you need to prove what? You need to prove your bank account balance. But now you're proliferating all of your private private data out into organizations that have absolutely shitty controls, right? So it's like if you've worked with a lender, you know a little bit about the industry, you know it's terrible, right? It's like forget about it. So what if you could prove to a lender that yes, I have over $100,000 in my bank account? And the zero knowledge proof can actually do that. They can say, yes, this individual, right, has a bank account. So the only other thing that you need party one, which is me, and you need party two, which is a bank that says, yes, party one has a bank account with me. And then that's part of the public part of the zero knowledge proof. And then the private part, which needs to be hidden, is the actual value of the account. And then I can do some fancy cryptography with elliptic curves over prime fields. Actually, there are with imaginary prime fields, so it's two-dimensional, and I'm mapping one elliptic curve to the other. Right. So there's a lot of fancy cryptography going on, but basically what I'm generating is a proof, right? All of that my balance is over $100,000. That can be proven, right? Within code, and we'll see that in 1 second. That the zero knowledge proof. So the formal definition is that it's complete. That means I can an honest prover can prove to an honest verifier the statement. And soundness, right? That's the second, and that's really hard. Is that a dishonest prover cannot prove that statement to an honest verifier except for some minor small probability, right? And then the zero knowledge part comes in, is that I have I have a perfectly hiding characteristic of my cryptographic system, which means I can generate secrets that I don't have to share with anyone as input. So that's sort of like the formal definition. And a really good example of this approach is actually Battleship. And Jack and Ian have done that stuff. And do you want to show us how you can play Battleship in zero knowledge? So
sure.
You can't cheat. You can't cheat, right? Which is the really important thing. Take it away,
this is funny. I played Battleship this past weekend, and I was accusing my boyfriend of cheating, and he was like, "We're literally like at home playing Battleship, like nerds. Really, you think I'm cheating?" And I'm like, "Prove it!" But of course, so I'm excited to see how this works. So carry on.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you can't cheat. All right, take it away, guys.
Sure. Yeah. So as a quick caveat, it appears that Polygon Mumbai is experiencing some issues. So we'll be able to show off some of it in a front end. And then if you wanted, we could very quickly fire off a test suite and talk about that. But, like Andreas mentioned, Battleship is a really fantastic example of a game where it's not deployed on Goerli. Battleship is a fantastic example of a situation where you have, in this case, two players, but it doesn't really matter, just more than one party who have an adversarial relationship with each other and still need to coordinate with each other. So it's a really simple way for you to kind of, because everyone really understands that when you're playing Battleship, you don't want your opponent to see your your board state. So once you've gone through the motions of obscuring board state in a circuit, it becomes a lot easier for you to understand how you can kind of take zero knowledge circuits and repurpose them for more practical use cases. So yeah, I guess we could try really quickly to share screen.
Yeah. So Jessica, for your peace and quiet at home, play this version of Battleship. It's much better for your relationship.
Yeah, noted. I think I'll be taking, this is the takeaway from today for sure.
So is this coming through?
Samurai, you might have to
Not yet.
change the input for the stream to Jack's.
And
share.
Jessica, if you're interested in cheating, I'll teach you some tricks.
Noted. I'll contact you later today about that. Yeah, we can't see it yet. I think, Samurai, you need to change the view. Maybe you're working on that right now.
Jack, you're sharing?
Yes.
Okay. I can't see it, so that's fine.
So I guess while we're waiting, we can just talk about what it's doing. So the idea is that you need to anchor. So there's two parts. There's a board verifier and a shot verifier. What we want to do in the first stage is create in zero knowledge a proof that this commitment is the hash of a valid board placement. So in zero knowledge, what we do is we take in 5 different ship placements and then compute basically according to some hard-coded logic how we place these boards or these ships down on a 100x. Oh, there we go. 100x100 board. Let's actually go look at this. So there should be open games here. Again, Polygon Mumbai is not cooperating right now. So we'll at least be able to show how it generates a proof, and we might be able to pop open the console and see. But
Seems like there are some outage events going on, while we're having the show.
Yeah. So, you can place these wherever you want, just as a normal Battleship game. And when you click this button, basically what it's doing is it's passing in X, Y, X, Y, X, Y, X, Y, X, Y. And then for each one, if it's going horizontal, it passes in a Z of 0 or a Z of 1. If it's going vertical, and then it computes, it serializes this all into a single number where all the ones that are assigned are 1s, all the ones that aren't are 0s, and it hashes that number. And then that number is put on chain as basically, so if I confirm this, it's gonna, RPC, missing tree node now. So it's changing. Yeah, there's something going on with it, but if we open, maybe it'll, no, it's not gonna, yeah. Well, anyways, so basically though, what it did do is it generated the zero knowledge proof. It just, the part where it communicates with the chain is not, it's failing to talk to Infura right now. So, but what we did was we generated a zero knowledge proof written in Circom, and then we used Snark.js in the browser to drive this this view. And then once we click the start game button again, you see it go generate this proof, and it will inject it into a MetaMask transaction. So it already filled. Inject it into a MetaMask transaction where it anchors that commitment, and then the smart contract injects that commitment in each shot proof and basically constrains that you're checking that when you're making a shot, it's against the board commitment that you attested to in that first shot. So you're able to operate trustlessly on the board state without ever having to reveal the board state, which allows adversarial parties to coordinate. So this is done in CIRCOM, and part of the reason it's a little out of date is because we've actually been working on rebuilding this both in Aztec Noir, which is basically done. I'll let Ian really quickly talk about that in a sec, but and then also Halo 2. So we will be like kind of changing this. Instead of battlezips.com, it'll be like circom.battlezips.com, halo2.battlezips.com, noir.battlezips.com, kind of showing off all the different ways that these different proving systems are used to accomplish a very simple mechanism of obscuring information from adversarial parties in a decentralized way. So yeah.
This is so cool. I'm not super technical, so I don't understand all the technical things that you brought up, but in general, like this idea of being able to, I mean, zero knowledge is amazing, and it's cool to see this in action when you're sharing your screen, some of the kind of behind the scenes with the coding and stuff. That's interesting. I was wondering if, well, any other comments or questions we want to get into about BattleZips before we move on to other examples?
I'm just kind of curious.
Add, Ian?
Oh
gosh.
What has improved in the technology over the last couple of years that have now made things like this, you know, somewhat more approachable and possible?
Yeah, well, I think this is a good segue to the Noir implementation. I actually just got done writing the circuits for that, and we're going to be shipping the front end for that within the next few days. But what Noir basically is it's another domain-specific language for writing ZK proofs. BattleZips v1 was in CIRCOM, and you know, in order for this to be developer-friendly, or really, you know, this goes for anything in life. In order for something to be usable, you have to reduce complexity. And when it comes to zero-knowledge cryptography, it's very counterintuitive at first. You know, everything is translated into an arithmetic circuit, and that concept is very, you know, it's not friendly to the public, but it's even very developer unfriendly. So what Noir basically aims to do is really abstract away from that, and they want to make it so a developer can come in without needing to use the cryptography part of their brain, and really just, you know, bring a software developer be able to write proofs with ease. So it really builds upon a lot of the past DSLs. It allows a lot more abstraction. So you can actually use if statements in it, unlike CIRCOM, and it's really easy to use. I will say though, right now in the early stages, there's a few growing pains. For instance, they have a TypeScript library and also a command line tool set for compiling Noir proofs. And unfortunately, the command line tool set, there's a bug with it. So I had to switch to their TypeScript compiler, and ended up having to rewrite the entire circuit without a stack trace errors that are produced. So that was a bit painful. There's also not logging yet, but you know, this is just a really promising project overall, because when they actually get to the point where this reaches mainstream adoption, and they've really worked out a lot of the bugs and kinks with it, I think this is going to be, you know, one of the most powerful tools going forward for writing ZK proofs.
So it's actually improvements to the developer experience that have helped kind of bring this technology. The math hasn't really changed or evolved all that much.
Well, it has,
yeah,
but
sure.
it's where there are different types of approaches that allow you to do trade-offs, right? So and the trade-offs are whether you want to have a proof generated fast, and the verification of the proof is then much slower, or if you want to have if you're okay to generate it takes a little more time to generate the proof, but the verification is really fast. So it's and those are different types of prover systems, what we call prover systems, that just work with different cryptographic assumptions and techniques. And like with everything in life, it's a trade-off, right? It's like, you know, having your cake and eat it is typically makes you fat. So it's like there's no two way around it. So if you don't want to get fat but still want to have the cake, you need to eat less of the cake, right? So it's so this is exactly the same as with zero knowledge proofs. And Noir is a great example of a domain specific language. There are others. There's like Cairo from like Starkware. They are doing that are just focused on ZK Starks versus ZK Snarks. Again, those are different types of cryptographic approaches. So different type of languages. You have Zinc, and then you have good old Solidity, because now we also have systems that can take Solidity code and generate zero knowledge proofs bundles out of that are then wrapped into one zero knowledge proof that is actually then can be verified on chain. And I just want to say really one thing that's really important. The fact that it's on chain and the verification is on chain is absolutely critical, because that allows anyone anywhere at any time to verify a statement. So when you're playing Battleship in a tournament, for example, if just Jack and Ian play it, right, you know, they don't need the chain for that. But if I play with Jack and Ian in a three-way tournament, and Jack says, well, I won against Ian, it's like, really? This is like, I didn't see that, right? So then Jack can say, well, here's, you know, here's the button, click on that, verify game, boom, yes, I can actually verify on chain that Jack beat Ian fair and square, right? It's really important once you have more than two parties start to coordinate, and that's again what Baseline is about. That's why Battleship was developed within the Baseline community, because it's a simple, intuitive example of multi-party coordination under zero knowledge. That's why I just wanted to say, it's like this is you can verify these proofs on chain, because some people were kind enough back in 2017 to write all these nice precompiles in that allow you to do cryptographic operations on chain. So it's not cheap, but it's worth your while. All I want
I feel like this is going to solve a lot of different issues. One in particular, people like me and my boyfriend that fight over like stupid things like, you know, games, but also like proving it to people who won. Like, I love that this is something that is like when we get into the technical stuff, people like me are kind of like, okay, but then when we bring it back out like you just did and start talking about how this can really impact our world, it's just so fascinating. And I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about some real life examples and use cases. We've talked a little about the theoretical games. What else are we going to be seeing or is already happening with zero knowledge in terms of how it's shifting our current world, that people that maybe don't even need to know what zero knowledge is will be seeing as it like creeps up into their life in different ways? Anybody have any examples or things that are particularly exciting to you want to bring up?
Yeah, so there are two examples. One sort of like super intuitive, and one is sort of like industry specific, but it's like very, very real because it happens every single day, every single time. Most people don't see it, but it happens. So number one is you know, everybody loves Calendly, right? But you always see whether you know, you always see, oh, I have all these open spots, right? It's like so I'm revealing stuff about myself, right? So really what you want to do is like, hey, you know, it's like I want bot, is this available? Right? Without revealing anything about that. And it's like, is it really available? No, I mean really, really available. Right. And I as the one who has the calendar don't have to do anything about it. Right. So that is another example of a baseline grant that we just recently did, which is calendar sharing under zero knowledge, which allows you to book an open appointment without seeing anything about the other person's calendar, which is like really cool. Imagine like all your colleagues see all your open spots on your calendar. What happens? It gets booked up all the time. It's like, no. So it's like, so the cool thing about it is you can say, you can book with me, but tell me when, and I'll let you know whether it's available or not. So in terms of like meeting spamming, great tool. Can only, if you want improved productivity in companies, use that tool. It's the best thing since sliced bread for meetings. So that's one. The other one is which is actually we could actually demo sort of like the nuts and bolts of it, is what is called car dealer floor plan audits. Why is that super important? So let me, so banks give dealers loans. So if you don't know, when you buy a car, the dealer actually owns the car, not the manufacturer. The dealer owns the car, right? They actually have to buy it from the manufacturer because the manufacturer is like, I don't want to have to worry about whether the stuff gets sold while I own it, right? So, and the dealer obviously doesn't have the cash on hand, so he goes to a bank to get a loan with the collateral being the car, right? But dealers, I mean, if you've gone to like used car dealerships and like, right, there's the running joke of the seedy, Carl salesman, right? That's actually really true, and they're actually cheating a lot. How do they cheat? They sell a car, and they move it off the lot. As soon as the car is off the lot, doesn't have to pay in car loan anymore. But the new owner can return the car within like 2 weeks, depending on which state you're in. Like in California, you can 2 weeks, boom, right? Return it, right? So the dealer can still market. I did not market, it's like so he can still try to sell the car that has quote unquote sold and is not paying interest on anymore. So the dealer is cheating the bank. Just to say, JP Morgan Chase has $1 trillion worth of car loans on their balance sheet. Just to give sort of like a rough order of magnitude what a single bank has. So this is a very, 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 very large field with a lot of problems. And right, everybody and their cousin, all the lenders, are sending people in to count cars, right? It takes a long time. It's very expensive. So what a company called Zootopia is doing, it's cooperating with a location beacon provider that is attached to irremovably attached to the car key, and that sends location information, right? So what is happening is that Zootopia is processing and providing to all the lenders, because a dealer typically has multiple different car makes of cars, Toyotas and Fords and M's and so forth, Hondas. They all have their own lending arms, and they all would send their auditors. Right now, is the car, and they're only doing that, is the car on the lot, and is the car supposed to be part of the dealer fleet, right? But all the other lenders they are not supposed to know about anything except their own thing, about their own cars that they're lending. So what we can do now is provide a proof of location, the car's on the dealer lot, and by the way, that car is also part of the dealer fleet, right? And we can provide that in zero knowledge, which means we can provide it to anyone and they can verify it, and they don't have to send people anymore. It doesn't take forever, and it comes out of one hand. So that is saving lenders a lot of money, and from a people point of view, from a timing point of view, but also because now they can have better loan conditions. It reduces fraud, and therefore it reduces cost for the honest car dealers. So that, and you know, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. So that is that's a very concrete example that is actually going to go live next year, and for which you know, the circuit, which is very general, zero knowledge proof of, hey, I'm a member of this, and I'm here, I'm within this particular region, is actually usable. For example, if you think about the military, right? Is like, if you need to know where a unit is, and are you supposed to be part of this, right? You can just, the unit can generate a zero knowledge proof without revealing their location. It says, yes, we're here where we're supposed to be. Just as another use case for the circuit that was developed by Keith and Yoav here. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's really powerful.
I was going to say, I commonly tell people, I'm like, to where think of the zero knowledge proof as like a fingerprint of the data set that it's referencing. And, you know, when you're in a multi-party environment, you can't share the data, or you won't share the data. You're basically matching up the fingerprints of the data, and where they match them, and where are they misaligned. You know, that's one kind of a way to, you know, really articulate zero knowledge proofs. A lot of us that have been in blockchain are really familiar about the rabbit holes that we can get led down when you start to go deep, you know, peeling away the first two layers of the technology. You can really get yourself into check your way into a cul-de-sac, as I would say, with a lot of this. And so, you know, with zero knowledge proofs, I commonly tell people, I was like, you know, certain elements, you know, they don't have to be as complex or just esoteric as everybody thinks they is. I mean, it's a fairly easy concept to where it's like, I can't show you my data, but I can show you the fingerprint. You get the fingerprint, let's compare our fingerprints. So, and that is enough for most operational environments. But, you know, one thing I do want to kind of emphasize is, you know, when it comes to zero knowledge proofs, you have three elements that are really being that are going to be comprising any, you know, complete, proper zero knowledge proof. The first one is going to be completeness. You've got to have the entire pieces of the puzzle. You cannot withhold something because the proof will not, the proof will fail. So that's the first one. It's got to be complete. Second of all, it's got to be sound. You know, don't try and prove that the grass is blue and the sky is green, because that is not sound and stuff. And the third element is zero knowledge, that in this exchange, you have not gained any new knowledge whatsoever, other than you are either consistent or you are not. You are matched up or you are not. So to, you know, largely the non-technical audience, I try and emphasize a lot of the kind of easy way of looking at zero knowledge, because it's really easy that we can get very complex and very technical very quickly. And we'll lose the audience, and people are like, I have no idea what you just said.
I think the first way, or one of the first ways it was explained to me, was imagine if you get pulled over. Sorry. Imagine if you get pulled over and you don't want to share with the police officer all your personal information, but you do want to share that you have an actual driver's license and that it's not expired. But why does this individual need to know your home address? That has always been something that's been really creepy to me, that there's a random person, you're just sharing it. And then to hear like, oh, maybe there'll be other options. That's what got me like, well, I would love, not that I get pulled over all the time. I'm not like a, you know, crazy race car driver or something like that. But assuming that maybe I am, I wouldn't like my information to be spread all the way around. So yeah, there's all these little things in our lives that could be fixed basically.
And I'm sure just as likely, Jessica, you're probably going to, you know, a lot of clubs and stuff, and you've got to show your ID to get in there. And the bouncer is looking at it going, hey, Jessica, we're from the same hometown. And you're like, okay, I didn't tell you this, and I don't want you knowing this. You just need to know, am I over 21? That's it.
Yeah, 20 years ago, yes. Now I can't remember the last time I showed my ID to a bouncer, but yes, but in like the idea behind that is wonderful, and like being able to prove that you're able to work somewhere without giving even your employers all of your information. I mean, it's pretty fascinating. It's cool, like working in a space where you don't have to do that everywhere. Like there are other options, and people think that privacy is normal. And in order to get a job, you shouldn't have to give away your liver and then let them like analyze what's inside of it, right?
Bingo. Yeah.
And what's also
and a lot of those proofs to where it's like you don't need to know all of the different data, because if you look at all the things even on your driver's license, it's got your home address, your date of birth, your height, your weight, your eye color, if you're an organ donor, all this stuff. None of this is relevant to the exchange that you would have to have access to an age-restricted environment such as a club. So,
Sonal, were you going to say something?
Why not make it simple? And actually, from when it comes to the verifying party, it removes somewhat of the liability, because they're not having to make a judgment or a determination as to whether you are compliant or not.
Mm-hmm.
They just prove to me that they are. That's all I need to know.
I was going to mention the other end as well. So aside from like consumer or like user use cases that we would all be compelled to, there's the huge bucket of enterprise use cases as well. Our technical steering committee from Baseline just published a blog called Digital Business at a Crossroads, backed by a ton of stats. So feel free to check that out. But it's all about the need for multiple parties to coordinate information in businesses, where global supply chain is a very obvious example, but really any situation where a company would benefit from exchanging data, but not even that data. That's not what it's important. They don't need the raw data or anything private. They just need certain attributes or outputs of calculations of that data. And then they can do all sorts of undiscovered capabilities for their consumers, for their clients. So I think that is just a whole different ballgame that we're really excited from the Baseline perspective to be a part of, to be working on a standard that uses zero knowledge for such a vast amount of industries.
That's a really good point. I mean,
2 days back, actually,
to an enterprise, data
was shut down.
is risk.
This stream is so fragile because of the connection issues, but I'm just going to say there's 2 points here. So one is TradeLines shut down very recently. It was because of lack of the right data, the right parties sharing the right amount of data at the right time, and that's what they said. That's the sole reason why they had to shut down and take it offline. In fact, that's the third such consortium to go down. So that is one. And the second thing, the flip side is also the cybersecurity aspect. So imagine, because you're not exchanging so many pieces of information, you're also reducing your attack surface. You're also reducing the aspects which you need to secure. So in a way, it makes this whole system lightweight and also lighter on the compliance side. So there's a whole lot of benefits which come using this. And one of the key examples which I give to people, one is the club example which Mark told about, and the other one is Elon Musk's jet. So imagine somebody is tracking the jet and they know that this is owned by Elon Musk, and the guy eventually had to pay somebody to not track him, and LV had to sell their jet, right? So imagine if there was a way to protect the identity of the owners of private jets. So that was the use case we were discussing a few days back with a large airport company.
Protect the owners of private jets.
A problem very few people have, but very important people have.
Actually, if you want to look
Josh,
at
were you going to say something?
I was actually going to hit that same point of data is risk. If two businesses need to trust each other and transfer data that's in any way sensitive, and sensitive could mean, it's data they've spent millions to generate and understand, or it's data that might be PII belonging to their customers. No matter what, that data is risk, and losing that data could either mean significant lawsuits, could mean significant fines, or just, you know, the loss of a good partner in business and in enterprise. So anytime that we can help reduce that risk and only transfer what needs to be done, you know, that ultimately means companies are happier because their data is safer. They're maybe more likely to bring on other partners that they wouldn't necessarily want to go through the trust issues with. But also it means the consumer is potentially safer as well, because rather than sending around all this customer data needed to do this analysis, you know, now we can send around that zero knowledge proof and hopefully protect them a little bit better.
Well, actually, if you think of, you know, one, you know, use case or at least industry that has, you know, a lot of participants that all have to, you know, have their data, you know, zealously guarded. But at the same time, the entire project needs to be kind of kept on the down low anyway, is like clinical trials for, you know, drug vaccines or vaccines, biologics, I mean, any new drugs, because you've got to have all of these actual participants and you have to monitor their adherence. Are they taking the investigative medication at the proper time and the proper dosage and, you know, in the proper method, all of that. And you've got to aggregate and manage all of this data that is all, you know, subject to HIPAA and PHI data privacy laws. But at the same time, you don't want your competitors, you know, catching wind of what you're doing too. So you really have to kind of have that veil of secrecy as maintained as much as possible. And yes, people can pierce it, but you just want to, you know, make to the point to where you're not generating any attention or giving any type of signals. And zero knowledge is an excellent way of doing that. So any process environment to where privacy and security are tantamount is just rife for zero knowledge computing and zero knowledge method of you know, collaborating.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why it's such a hot trend right now, which Andreas and some others touched on, is because it's not that zero knowledge is a new thing. Luckily, it's been around for quite a while because it's just
years.
sound cryptography at this point. But with the additions and recent advancements of blockchain, you can now reap the benefits of immutability, the verifiability, and all the other great benefits of why we're all interested in blockchain, and tie that together with zero knowledge. And that's why this huge boom of interest is taking place right now.
Well, and a big thing that I'm seeing right now is, you know, people sitting here starting to emphasize cryptography over encryption. You know, encryption basically is going to have an inherent flaw. There's going to be a keyhole. It's meant to be unlocked by someone. Cryptography, we remove that entire element. So cryptography.
That's an interesting way to say it, to flip it like that. I feel like I haven't heard it said like that before, and that's going to stick with me.
Well,
so you know what, everyone, go ahead, and then I think we need to, yeah.
And with zero knowledge, we need to get much better in our messaging. It's got to be as plain language as possible, and you know, if you can't explain it in 2 to 3 sentences, you need to distill it.
No tech talk.
Yeah, so
Agree to that. Yeah, Jessica.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I feel like we could go on and on forever about this, which we all want to, and we're kind of going to, because we're going to be back to dual streaming in 2 weeks. So not next Wednesday, Baseline, you guys will have your regular show, and then the week after that, C4 will be back. I'm not sure it'll be me, and I don't know if it'll be Josh or Cheyenne or somebody else from our committee. We'll see, but we'll have somebody else, and we'll talk more in depth about different examples. And if you have questions that have come up during this stream, if you're a viewer or if you're an attendee, put them in the chat comments on any of the socials, and we'll take a look before we talk next, and we'll make sure that we answer them, so that if there's things that are unclear, or you're like, okay, I would want some examples on this, or whatever it is, let us know, because we want to educate everyone on how zero knowledge works, and hear from you too on your thoughts. So thank you guys all for being here and joining. This has been super fun, and I'm excited to come back in 2 weeks and do it all over again.
Yeah, this has
Any
been
other
amazing,
last
Jessica. Thank you
comments?
so much, guys from C4.
Thank you, everyone.
And yeah, we're gonna be seeing everybody on the Baseline Show next week, which is our General Assembly, and the next in the week following that, 21st, we're gonna be pairing up with C4 again and continue the chat on ZKPs. Thank you once again, who all tuned in. Do follow us on Twitter and YouTube. And yeah, that's it from our side today. That's us wrapping up the Baseline Show. Thank you very much.